When we are able to identify the perpetrators, the laws of this country does not allow us to commit crime. So if you commit crime, the law must catch up with you.
We hear from the chief of the area who says there's fear in the community as he describes as sad the manner in which the victims were killed.
Most of the people who were shot there were fasting. One of them was reading the Quran. One was sleeping. One was a cripple. He couldn't walk. They shot them like that.
We're live in the community tonight and speak to the regional minister on the latest in Zakoli in Yendi. Top Story is brought to you by Vodafone. Together we can. Well, tonight on Top Story, we head to the northern region where the Regional Security Council there is on a hunt for assailants said to be responsible for the gruesome murder of up to 9 nomadic headsmen in the Yendi town of Zakoli in the northern region. They've been describing it as barbaric and unforgivable. The Northern Regional Minister Al-Hassan Shani Shaibu says the police will not rest until perpetrators are arrested. According to reports, the attack came after allegations that some armed robbers had attacked and killed a Konkomba man on Tuesday. An eyewitness tells us more.
Plenty of men are sleeping. So later I hear some women and children, they are running out of the house. So it made me wake up. So now also came out and we saw some Konkombas with full armies. They're all well armed. And then they started, when we just saw them, they started burning Fulani people properties, and then they started killing some of them. We even want to stop them, but the way we...
So that's the eyewitness's account. Well, this afternoon, the Regional Security Council met with the traditional leadership, victims and residents of Zakoli to learn at first hand the matters surrounding the disturbances. Lana of Zakoli, Abubakar Andani, says his palace is now a temporal shelter for the nomadic headsmen. He described as sad the manner in which the victims were killed.
And then I divided some of the Fulanis into the houses of my elders, where they slept, and they were fed till this morning. Nothing left. The most saddened thing is the babies, clothless, going nakedly. As for food, we are able to support them. Women in this community, every house had to prepare tea, cocoa, and other things for them. Last night, every house in the community presented some food which they cooked for them. No one knows the cause of the problem until the police investigate. I think that is the only thing we can say. Why I couldn't call the police was that I left my phone in Yende to charge, so I was phoneless, and they help give us rehabilitate the Fulani houses. That's one of their major concern. How to feed them will be another problem. And one funny thing is that most of the people who were shot there were fasting. One of them was reading the Quran. One was sleeping. One was a cripple. He couldn't walk. They shot them like that.
So that's the chief there during his interaction with the minister and, of course, the Regional Security Council when they met with the traditional leadership there. The Northern Regional Minister, for instance, Al-Hassan Shani Shaibu, says the police will bring to justice these perpetrators.
8 bodies were recovered. Some of them bent. The bodies have since been deposited at the Tamale Teaching Hospital morgue. They do not know about any provocation that would have led to this incident. The Fulanis themselves who were affected, this old man who had spoken, lost three of his sons. There is an old lady here too, who also lost his only son, who was the breadwinner. Another lady lost the husband and a very young boy. 8 of them in all, and 4 seriously injured, who are still in hospital. This incident cannot go unpunished, but we can only punish crime when we are able to identify the perpetrators. The laws of this country does not allow us to commit crime. So if you commit crime, the law must catch up with you. We need the cooperation of the local community here, because people here would have known at least 1 or 2 of the perpetrators that will serve as the lead for us to be able to unearth the reason for which this barbaric act was constructed and executed. So we are appealing to the community here. I know at this moment, people are so terrified. We will give them some small time. After they have recovered, they should be able to speak to us. The police commander and his team, the regional crime officer, the divisional crime officer, would all put their forces in action to be able to unearth these unscrupulous people so that the law would deal with them.
The law will deal with them. That's the Northern Regional Minister, Alhassan Shani Shaibu. Thankfully, he joins us on the line. But let me also bring in our Northern Regional correspondent, Martina Bugri, who was part of that delegation and the Regional Security Council that met the chiefs, the residents of Zakoli earlier today to establish what exactly could have led to this particular violence. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister, for joining us here on Top Story. My colleague, Martina Bugri, was also there. If you permit me, I'll just speak to her briefly about what exactly she's also been able to establish on the ground. Then we'll get to you. Well, Martina, first off, you were part of this whole delegation. Let's find out how residents are holding up after this particular incident.
The town is a place where one would describe as a grieving town as we speak. While the interaction went on, a lady could not control herself. She kept on solving. She had lost the breadwinner, the one who provides for her, and that is the only child that she had. She lost everything in the race and lost the son as well. There was this man who was also very silent and watching the exchanges. He had lost 3 sons in the race. And so one can describe the community as a grieving community. What the people want now is those who executed this crime be arrested and brought to book. That is their plea.
So, according to earlier reports, at least when we started reporting this incident, we were told about some allegations that some armed robbers had attacked and killed a Konkomba man on Tuesday. Have we been able to establish whether indeed that's the cause of this particular situation that we witnessed?
That is the information on the ground, but the police said they are yet to establish a correlation between that and then the earlier incident of the robbery. But as we speak now, that is the information everybody in the community you engage will tell you is the cause.
Well, the regional minister today was assuring the community of protection and care for those who've been displaced by the violence. What exactly is the situation on the ground? Has that started?
Not yet. As we speak now, the chief of Zakoli is the one who is housing them, and he's also the one who is providing. But we are told that NADMO will begin mobilization and will move into the community very soon.
Well, that's Martina Bugri. Martina, you can stay on the other line with me as I interact with the Northern Regional Minister, Alhassan Shani Shaibu. Once again, sir, we're grateful for your time. So you've been interacting with the chiefs, elders, residents, and also those who were partly affected by this particular situation. Let's establish, is it that all those who were affected were Fulani descent.
Thank you for having me online. It's true that all those who were affected are all of Fulani origin, who have been living in that community for the past 40 years or more, I'm told.
And were we able to establish in our preliminary engagement with them as to what really could have led to this particular situation?
Yes, I inquired from them what they think or suspect could have led to this situation. But they tell me that they are innocent of anything. They don't know why they were attacked at noon, and 8 of them had to lose their lives.
Well, there are fears then of reprisals. What measures exactly are we putting in place to ensure or avert it?
Well, we have positioned the Ghana police. When we got news yesterday around 4 o'clock, I asked the regional police commander himself to visit the place. He went with some men, and I can tell you that as at midnight yesterday, the regional police commander was still in the community, and he left the community after midnight, leaving some number of men in those 3 communities that have been affected. And as I speak to you, we have sent reinforcement to the area, and the area is well cordoned off for any reprisal attacks.
Well, about how many of your men would you say you've been able to deploy to the area?
There are 3 communities involved, and at every community we have about 6 policemen stationed there.
And is this a situation you would say you have under control, knowing that up to 9 persons died, and we are yet to know what really could have led to this particular situation, even though you've been interacting with the community chiefs and elders of the area?
Well, we had an interaction with the community chief, the three chiefs. We spoke to the 3 chiefs of those 3 communities, and even the Fulani delegation that had left Accra and met us there. The delegation came to meet us in one of the communities, and we spoke with them and assured them that justice was going to be meted out to them.
And that assurance, you say, was satisfactory for them?
Oh yes, they had hope. We had spoken, and they saw the passion with which people had gathered there, and they really see that yes, something positive would come out of the interactions that we had with them.
But the concern is, at least you just confirmed that this involves 3 communities, up to 3, correct?
Yes.
3 communities.
Even though one community suffered the deaths, all the 8 deaths came from one community. But we had 3 Fulani communities within that vicinity.
And so far, no intelligence gathering tells us what exactly could have caused this, or how we can prevent further attacks.
Well, I am not into security. You know, the security have their way of doing their things. Even though they were going with us, probably they might have known what they were doing at our blind side. And you know, the security, they will never tell you what they are doing. So, but we have hope that something positive will come in the very near future.
But really, you are the head of the Regional Security Council, and it appears that it's not assuring enough that you would say that you're not into security. You're leading that team. So it's surprising that you say that you're not into security. Then how are we having a hold on this particular situation?
What I mean is that it doesn't reach my stage yet. They would have to do the preliminary things before they bring it to RegSec. You can bear with me that security issues are very delicate, and you don't come to public with security issues until you have built that level that you need to explain, or you don't even need to explain to anybody again. The security would always do their things quietly and bring it to the authorities.
I'm sure this is a situation of a particular interest to you. And it appears that days after this particular incident, many hours, and it appears we don't have a hold on anybody. No arrests made so far. Is that a situation you're satisfied with?
I am not. I'm not satisfied with that. This was not a clash. This was an attack. Somebody perpetrated this and went away. At the time that this perpetration was taking place, there was no security around. So it's not as easy as you look. It's not as a clash that you think that two people clash, that somebody can just tell you that this was the person who was involved or this was the community which was involved. It wasn't the case. Those people who were killed, I can tell you that in confidence that some of them were even sleeping when they came and shot them. Among the people who died was a teenage. There was another one who was a cripple, a very elderly person who was reciting the Quran under the shade of a tree, was killed. Somebody was sleeping in the, these Fulanis. They have these thatch houses that they prepare and that they live in. If you see the picture, you see that somebody was bent. He was shot and his house was touched and he was bent. So the evidence that would have gathered would have been coming from these people, and they are dead. So it would take time for us to unearth all these things, because the people who would have told us or given us the evidence are all dead.
It appears it's a rather serious situation, the picture that you paint, very barbaric incident.
Oh yes, I wish that you would see the pictures.
Then what?
Even though the pictures are not good enough for us to put it on the social media.
At least we've seen some on the Joy News channel.
Exactly.
Very,
yes, very gory. Yes.
Very gory pictures.
Yes.
Then I would ask what the charge is from the head of the Regional Security Council to those under you to get to the bottom of this matter. Is there a timeline in particular you're giving them to ensure that we get to the bottom of it?
When we returned, we just returned, not quite some 1 hour ago, and we went into a meeting, but we didn't have a full house. We will converge again tomorrow, and that is where after tomorrow's deliberations, we will put a timeline on it. But I can assure you that we are going to speed up these things and make sure that the perpetrators are brought to book.
Well, in some cases, we know that once a booty or a bounty, for instance, is put on the head of those who may have committed this, sometimes it really works fast enough. Is that something we are considering?
Well, I don't have the capacity to put a bounty on somebody. It is the prerogative of the president to do that. And if the president decides to do that, I think I am going to support it.
Has he even called, for instance, about it, knowing that 9 persons have been lost, the Defense Ministry, the Interior Ministry?
But why do you think that the president won't be concerned? Definitely, if such a thing happens, the president I would have spoken several times with the president.
And what has he been saying about it?
That is not for me to disclose on air.
Okay. Well, you've been talking about the dead, for instance. How about those who've been displaced? You've been giving some assurance about community protection and care for those displaced. I've been hearing my colleagues say that is yet to happen. What exactly is the situation with that?
As we left the place this afternoon, NADMO was there taking stock of all the necessary things that we need to support, that we need to send to them. And that is on course. I'm sure by tomorrow morning or midday, some support would have gotten there. The armed forces have made available 2 of their big trucks waiting at the RCC to pick whatever aid that we would be sending to the place tomorrow.
So we know 9 people died. How many people have been displaced from
there
the
are
last
not
count?
9 people dead. There are 8 people dead.
8. Okay. So
8 people, yes.
8. Then how many people have been displaced? The
We are
figures?
still taking an inventory of the people who have been displaced, because they are coming from three communities. And the NADMO is in charge of that. They are doing that, and by close of the day today, they would have sent their briefing. The regional NADMO officer regional NADMO director is working on that.
It appears our duty of care has been left in the hands of the chief. We heard him. He's rather housing those who've been displaced and feeding them. And it's taking NADMO how many hours to be able to do so?
My sister, you don't speak as if we were already ready for such an emergency. This is an emergency situation, and every emergency situation demands an emergency response. And what the chief has been doing is an emergency response that he was doing because he lives in that community with them. And that is what I'm saying, that we are doing all that we can to send support to them and to make sure that they are living a comfortable life.
Well, the chief is also doing, putting in place emergency response
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. Single-handedly,
Yes.
he's able to do so. And the regional minister, Security
Yes.
Council, NADMO
Yes.
regional,
Yes.
are not able
Yes.
to put in the same emergency response.
Who tells you that we are not? Why did I, in the first place, why was I there? Do you know what was happening there? If I hadn't gone there, I wouldn't be speaking to you, briefing you on what we are doing. If I was just sitting in Tamale, do you think that giving you this interview would have been possible? That is part of the emergency responses that we are doing. You are not speaking to me alone. It is not. You are not listening to me alone. Other people are listening, who would be willing to also support. And these are some of the emergency responses that is taking place. Only God knows what response will come from civil society groups, NGOs, and other parastatals to support the people. What we are doing now are all emergency responses that we are doing. The Yendi Municipal Assembly itself is arranging something for them this evening. But I had to come to Tamale. So as I speak to you now, I don't know what the Municipal Assembly is doing. But the Municipal Assembly was itself organizing something to go there this evening because the chief had made an appeal. Because the people have lost all their livelihood. They don't have anything. And we cannot just go there to just do some face-saving thing and leave. We're all in tears when we got there. We're all moved. So definitely, we are not leaving anything to the chief. The chief himself is handicapped.
We truly appreciate your time. We just need responses. That's how come we'd have to ask. We are grateful. We'll be following up on this incident. And as and when we need any other support, I'm sure, like you said, those listening would come to the aid of the area and those community persons to be able to provide the support we need. Many thanks for your company, sir. We're grateful. That's the Northern Regional Minister, Alhassan Shani Shaibu there speaking to us about this particular incident in Zakoli in the northern region. We're told about 8 Fulani persons have been killed under gory circumstances. You heard the chief tell us that some of them were even praying, some sleeping, involves teenagers, amongst others. The cause of this particular attack remains unknown. We can hear from the regional minister in wrapping up when he met the chief once again.
I am appealing to the Fulani community who have been at the end of the suffrage to exercise restraint. Law will grind slowly, but it will catch up with all the perpetrators. I know we are in a state of agony now. What we need to do is to quickly arrange for the burial of the deceased. That when we get back to Tamale, we would do. And make sure that we give them a befitting funeral so that the rest we can carry on with it. I know in the Islamic faith, for which I'm told that all of them were Muslims, we wouldn't want to keep them for long. So the necessary things, autopsies will be done, they will be released for burial, and we will come back, do the necessary things that will calm down the tempest and the agony that people are going through, so that we can equally have these investigations going on, so that in the end, peace and justice will be meted.
So that's the regional minister there speaking earlier when he met with the chiefs in the area. But we've been joined on the phone by the Yendi MP, Farouk Aliu Mahama. We're grateful, sir, for your time here on Top Story. So this is the situation in your area. We're told about 3 communities affected, 8 persons dead, a number of them displaced and injured as well. What is your own briefing on the situation?
Thank you very much, Madam. even though I'm in a situation of a mourning, I'm mourning my late mom. I'll just make time to just comment. I'm in Tamale, but I've got a brief from the DC and I know the regional ministers on top of issues. Basically, Yendi being a community that has a lot of tribes, the Kokoma and the Fulanis. And from my understanding, it's one of the teachers who was from the Kokoma area on his way to school and was attacked by unknown men. Having also found out from the Kokuma community, they made their traces to the fingers were pointing to the Fulanis. So obviously there was a way of rebuttal. So they also went to that Zakoli communities and other communities around to do what we call revenge. And I think that is uncalled for and that is not accepted in humanity. And I think that they caused a lot of gunshots and killed a lot of people. But as of this morning, I'm aware the DC and the regional minister are on top of issues, have gone to meet the chiefs. The Zekwa Lana is my late father's good friend and somebody I know personally. I called him and I recommended him for making sure that he protected the people around and give them some accommodation and some feeding. So that's a very sad situation there, my sister.
Is there any form of, as we've had the regional minister, it appears it's a bit difficult getting to the aid of the people, for instance. Are we putting any measures in place to get to the aid of your people?
Yes, I think the regional minister had already reached the communion. I'm also moving to Yendi tomorrow. I'm in Tamale where we are preparing for my mom's 7th day adore in Yendi. So I'll be moving to Yendi tomorrow and also go to give them relief items. We're in the Ramadan season and most of these Fulanis, some people are most deprived in society. So we will try to talk to them with their opinion leaders. And fortunately, I'm very, very close with the Fulani, the chiefs, and the opinion leader in the Fulani community. I've spoken to him and I've told him to calm down. We are humans and we should manage these affairs. So it's a very reasonable situation, my sister.
Our condolences once again. We're grateful for your time.
Thank you,
That's
my sister.
Farouk Aliyu Mahama is a YND MP. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by